Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back. Joe Paris with you, and in this video, we're going to get into some of the more fun things when it comes to editing with Final Cut Pro. I know in our last videos, we kind of just went through kind of the import process, how to import your video, and then drag it down to the timeline, some of the ways to actually, grab and drag and drop and all that kind of fun stuff. And now I think it's really important, though, that we talk about how to add music, how to add pictures, how to add some of these basic things that you're going to want to use in your edits. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to turn the sound off. There we go. And if you click on this little music tab here, this is where you can use iTunes, GarageBand, and different sound effects. Now, there might be, and there normally is, by default, a ton of different sound effects. Let's turn this back on. So if I click on the baseball bat here, okay, it has the bat dropping. Let's click number 2. So that's like it actually hits. And you can use these in your edits. Now, you can see there are quite a lot of different sound effects that we have here. And let's just try like switch 3. Or telephone, okay, or telephone 10. Okay, so you could really get lost in playing around with a lot of these, or maybe bird owl. Okay, so some of these are pretty entertaining to say the least, and yeah, there's a bunch of these that come pre-installed, so kind of fun to add sound effects. And if you wanted to actually add a sound effect, let's say we wanted to add this clank, right? Actually, I don't like that. Let's try the door close. Okay, if I wanted to add this, I could just go ahead and click on it, okay? And I normally, guys, just drag and then I just drop it, okay? So I'm bringing this below, okay? And you can see there's some effects here that says effects as the words. Now if I just let go, there we go, okay? I have that in there. Now let's say, because I have music and audio here, it might be hard to actually just hear the effect. So let me go ahead and play this. So you can hear me talking and then there's that clanking. Now, a way to get rid of this music is you can see if I hover over this line, I can adjust the volume. Okay, so I can make it go higher, and you can see now it went lighter. There was this yellow and it went up. Okay, that means it's going to be louder. If I bring it down, okay, so the decibels are now in the negative, and then if I go all the way down to 0 infinity, that means it turned it off completely. Another way you can get rid of your audio is just simply click on it, okay, highlight it. All right, so if I just click and highlight it, you can then hit delete and it'll delete, or you can just right click on it, okay, and you can disable it. And you can also just detach the audio. That way, once it's detached, you can simply click on just the audio and go ahead and click the backspace or delete tab. Now, let's say you made a mistake, and this is important too, and you want to get that back. Let's say I want that audio back. You can hit Command Z, and that will bring your last mistake done. So to also have these edits undo or redo, you can simply click the edit tab here, and then you can click undo or redo. You can do a redo with the shift Command Z, or you can undo with just Command Z itself. Now, if you're using a different type of computer, it might be different for you, but those are the basic keyboard commands. So let's go ahead and get rid of this. And now I just want to hear the sound effect. So if I go ahead and play this, there's my sound effect. Okay, so that's how you add in a sound effect. You drag and drop it, and you can see that whenever I'm kind of scrolling with my playhead here, I'm sorry, the secondary playhead, it's kind of snapping, okay, to a bunch of these different time spaces, okay? So you can turn your snapping on and off by clicking here. This is the snapping tool, okay? So if you don't want it to go from here to snap right to that exact point, all you have to do is click this on and off, and you can see now it's not exactly snapping to these points. I can kind of nice and move, closer to it. I like to have the snap on personally as an editor, but that is something that you can deal with on your own. So that's how you add in sound effects. Now let's say you had iTunes, right? And you had maybe a whole song that you wanted to add. I'm not sure. There's a bunch of different songs that you can have here. But if you wanted to take it, you can just go ahead here, and I'm going to turn my sound off. you can click and drag the entire song down, and you can see it says music. Okay, so there's even this little panel here for me to let go. Now I can have my sound effects underneath, my music down here, and then I can even overlay that with the default audio that's coming from the clip. This is great because now it's all separate. It's not like mashing together. And if I ever want to get rid of maybe just the effect or maybe just the audio here, this is a great way to work with and separate the different audios, and you can see the different layers here. So that's how you can work with that. Also, you have GarageBand. I don't use GarageBand personally, but if you did, you can go ahead and add in your GarageBand tracks or whatever the little shorts are or whatever the music is that you've created with GarageBand, and you can add it in there. Now, we're going to go ahead and talk about this next little T here, and this is our titles, okay? This is our titles tab. And if you go ahead, we have our titles, okay? We have our generators. This is probably how it looks by default for you. I had the titles open, and here are the basic default titles that come with Final Cut Pro. So you can see here, here's the 360 basic 3D, okay? And if you hover over with your mouse, you can see it's giving us an example in the window screen here. So if I hover here and I click the space bar, it'll automatically just begin, and I didn't click that the right way, there we go. If I go ahead and click the space bar, it'll automatically give us a nice play there, and then it will show us an example, and it will loop the entire transition, or should I say title. So if you wanted to actually see what some of these do, that's how you would do it before you would even use the title. Now you can see here my different titles. I have something called an adjustment layer. This is essential when it comes to editing, but this is a plugin that I highly recommend that you guys take advantage of, and I'll be sharing with you more about adjustment layers as we continue on with the tutorial. But for right now, you might not be seeing an adjustment layer in your titles. That's okay. You might just be seeing a lot of these default basic titles, boogie lights, all these different, the far, far away one, and yeah, so you might not see all the different titles I have, because this one here, the MW Wiggly text, this was another plugin from a gentleman named Mark Webster, and he gave away these plugins for free. So there are just a few different plugin texts that I have that you guys might not. Now let's go ahead and actually use one of these titles. Let's say I wanted to do the boogie lights. Well, how would I actually begin using this title in my clip? What I would do is I would click on it, okay, and I would drag and drop. Okay, and you can see now it creates this title that says BOO. That stands for Boogie Lights. Okay, it's by default. Now, if I let go, you can see it's going to start the title right here in that section of the clip. Now, what also has come up is our inspector. Okay, so here's a few things that are really important with the text, and I'll go through as many of these as I can. The first little bar up here is your different formats and also the different styles. Okay, so you can see here I have a 2D style, a 3D style. Okay, the save format, save appearance attributes. All right, so let's go ahead and let's just do Chrome. Okay, that looks kind of fun, right? Now if I go ahead and click on the text here, this is the spot where I actually add in the text. So let's do add in text. Okay, now why isn't it showing up on my screen? The reason why is because I don't have the playhead over the text. There it is. Okay, so if you have your playhead start right at the beginning here, okay, it's not going to show it. You need to have it go a little bit in. Okay, so I'm going to go a frame or two in there, and now it says add in text, right? Pretty cool. Now, if I want it bigger, I can just drag it up to there, or I can add in a custom amount. So if I want to keep going, I can make it even bigger than that. Or I can drag it down here to make it very, very small, and now you can't really even see it. So we'll make it back to right about there. Your alignment, pretty basic. If I click here, it'll go to the right. If I click to the middle, it'll center it. If I click here, it'll go to the left. And then there's a few more adjustments that you can make there. The vertical alignment, okay, so you can play around with this. and it will align everything vertically. The line spacing, if I go ahead and move this around, okay, it'll play with the spacing. I don't want to do that. I'm going to get out of there. Tracking, okay, I don't ever really play with this. Position, okay, so there's different positions that we can have, and also you can rotate, okay, so you can rotate this. But here's some really, and there's so many more options here, guys. You can animate, you can do all these different things. You can make it 3D, so I'm not gonna make it 3D, okay, so now you can't even really see it. Now I do make it 3D. Okay, so there's lighting, there's environment, there's intensity, right? So if I slide this up and down, it makes it more intense or less intense, and that's, a little bit harder to see. So if I want to just undo that, make it there. Okay, so here's the material. It's chrome, right? So if I click on this, we can do plastic, we can do, fabric, right? We can make it plaid, okay? So you can see now it's that plaid, right? We can do paint, okay? Maybe it's like glitter. Cool. So there's a bunch of different little things that we can do here. And some texts allow you to really customize them. Others don't go into this much depth. So maybe this is a good example. Maybe it's not. But there's a few other options here that I think are really important. And I think what's really important even more is, let's say I don't want this text in the middle. Let's say I want it in the corner, right? Well, I can position it, okay, using the different positioning here, right? And I can type in different coordinates, but that can be kind of obnoxious. So what I normally do is I click this, okay, and it gives me now this little rotating circle and these dots and points that I can use, okay? So this is important, but also too, if I click on this down here, I can transform my text. Now, what's amazing about transforming your text is if I click on this now, I can drag it anywhere I want on the screen. You see the positioning, how when I click and drag this, where it's giving me the different positions? I could do that manually, or I could just transform it and click and drag it. This is so much easier. Another thing that's great about transforming is when I click this, and I click here or here, it's going to adjust the size, okay? That's amazing. All right, so let's say I wanted to add in the text to the bottom corner here. Let's make it a little smaller. Perfect. And done. Right? Done, done, done. Make sure, though, you click done. All right. Now, I didn't go through all the different things that we can do here. You can distort, you can transform. You can also use these blend modes. Personally, I don't use these very often, but this is definitely an option that you can use here. And there's a bunch of different options within the blend modes. When you transform, okay, so if I go ahead and transform this, again, I have it on, but now if it's off, right, you can see now I can't click and drag this around, but if I click transform again, I'll be able to click and drag this when I also go ahead and click transform down here. Okay, so you can also transform, crop, distort, stabilize, and this is, again, though, we're not on our text. So if I go ahead and click on our text, this is what our main text is going to be, and this is where now I can actually move this around and use all these different options in my inspector. So that's what's so important, and kind of just some of the basics to adding text using music, and I look forward to teaching you more in our next videos. Stay tuned.